End of the line. Written by Whiskers TDC. Bramond White by no means saw himself as a good man. From when he abandoned his post as lookout when the magistrate's men began to approach the in-progress train heist, or the moment he decided that there could be no witnesses, not even his own daughter, as he drove the railway spike through her unconscious head with ruthless efficiency and a horrific squelch. And when he fled to the salt plains, he knew survival was more of a hope than a reality. But at least the lingering miasma of the hangman's necktie could not weigh his thoughts out here. As he stared into the crackling fire, the only salvation keeping the biting chill of night from consuming his rapidly numbing body, he knew that the only way out that didn't leave him a fresh resident of a pine box was to stow onto a train as it hurtled past his ramshackle camp. So he sat waiting, watching, longing, his emaciated fingers tracing the edge of his holster, as another twang of hunger spurred more desperation to flood into his mind. Perhaps it'll be a cargo train, stacked with mountains of food enough to keep me gorged till I make it somewhere outside the plains. His mind managed to string together a fantasy to keep the dark tide of his approaching end away from the forefront of thought. But as he waited, counting each second as they droned into minutes, then hours, the embers of the fire growing dim and cold, he accepted that he had ran from a quick death into a slow drift into the maws of death. No, he wouldn't end like this. He would not succumb to an ill-conceived ploy to escape the life he had ruined of his own volition. In a swift motion unbefitting his now wretched form, he released the aged weapon from its place on his hip and placed its sleek barrel to his chin. Pulling back the hammer, he took a shallow breath in, his final breath in, and shh! The shrill howl of steam, fleeing depths of darkness, pierced the air, intercepting his death and filling him with a renewed hope. The ethereal cooing of a coming chance of survival echoed through his dazed mind as he lumbered to his feet, preparing himself for the moment where he'd have to heave himself onto the careening wall of steel and steam as it charged past. But as he stared into the void where the tracks disappeared from his sight, he didn't see a piston-driven wedge forcing its way through the swell of darkness, nor monolithic walls of smoke consuming the track under its weight. Instead, he saw a spark of light hovering over the tracks as a growing shriek of a steam engine's whistle billowed out of it. His gaze was trapped by the mesmerizing kaleidoscope of light as it grew and cracked into a brilliant spider-webbing fracture of reality. What are you? He attempted to cry out to the growing rift, but his shredded lungs swirled the plea into a singular tormented vowel, drowned out by the ethereal cry of an engine that was not there. Then the rift began to swell, its engorged form ready to birth into existence a world beyond the wildest depths of Bramond's mind, before his now tear-filled eyes. Now buckling under its own impossible form, the rift gave way, first into a massive claw, thrashing and rending its way through the thin veil of existence, its obsidian and iron form easily shredding any resistance brought by the spiraling vortex. Weaving layers of distortion between it and the new world it was goring its way into. As the claw found purchase in the craggy earth, it began to heave its ethereal mass forward, giving way for the horrific amalgamation of machine and flesh to bring itself into reality. Bremen froze in horror, watching as what should have been his salvation brought a gnashing maw where a headlight should have been, into space where just moments before had been nothing. And it unleashed another monstrous cry, tearing through the night air. Bremen knew that this thing was here for him. Punishment for the lives he had taken. Retribution incarnate. But he wouldn't let it take him. Once again, he procured the tarnished revolver from the worn leather strap at his side, and let loose a salvo of lead at the charging demonic mass. The rounds plinked off the plates of obsidian and sunk into pallid flesh, doing little but enraging the thing. The engine plowed closer, swooping a heavy hand towards Bremen, attempting to scoop him into its ravenous gullet as he performed an ungraceful dive, barely avoiding becoming a carrion mass, wedged between its fangs. He landed with a thud, his malnourished body barely absorbing the impact, sending ripples of pain radiating throughout his body, while he clumsily rolled back to his feet. Upon regaining his footing, Bremen turned his weary eyes back to the machine, while his trembling hand attempted to stuff more rounds into his gun. The engine car began to retch itself to the right, bringing the ethereal, sinuous boxcars that paraded behind it to cut off another dive when it came back around to eviscerate him. Wide-eyed, he froze, his gaze meeting the hollow specters blankly staring from within the passenger cars, the mangled and brutalized remnants of what he could only assume were the unfortunate victims that had been taken by the infernal machine. The bullets in his hand clattered to the floor in a soft symphony as he realized far too late that the engine had returned to him. In a desperate effort to avoid another arcing swipe of its claws, he hurled his pain-riddled body to the side, but the motion only managed to skewer him. Bremen let out a long, gargling sound as his lungs began to flood with blood, the long obsidian mass tearing through his guts, heaving his limp body into its gnashing jaws. Well, everyone, I hope this story was worth the wait. Written by one of the newest members of the If Worlds Collide community. A community you yourself are free to join, if you have not already. Link to the Discord is in the description below. As always, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, leave a like, and a comment for the algorithm. With how fickle YouTube can be, I'm gonna need the help with the engagement. So every little bit will be appreciated. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.